Welcome to the 25-man Lich King guide. If you notice, there's a little bit of roleplay that goes on before this gets started. The fight itself is broken down into 3 phases, with an additional transition phase in between the first and second and third phases. At the beginning of this fight, for the first phase, we're all stacked up on one spot. The tank is facing Lich King away from us. This is because the Shambling Horror will be spawned in front of the Lich King. And if he's facing away from the raid, the Shambling will be spawned away from the raid, and no one gets to cleave. There's an additional off-tank off to the side, who in this case is a Death Knight, who will Death Grip the Shambling to him, and face the Shambling away from the raid. This is because the Shambling does a shockwave in front of him, and if you're not a tank, you'll probably be one-shot. There's something called Necrotic Plague going out throughout this phase. It goes on someone. They have 5 seconds to run next to the Shambling and get cleansed. If they're not cleansed, they will die, as you can see here. The plague, every time it is dispelled, it jumps to the nearest person within 5 yards of them, and if it kills them, it gains a stack, so it does more damage. And so the goal is to have it bounce off the minor ghouls and kill them, get a bigger stacks, and kill the Shamblings all on its own. This is the first transition phase. We run to the edge because if you're not on the edge, there's AoE damage going out that you don't need to take. Throughout this phase, Raging Spirits spawn. These need to be tanked, face towards the middle, which is away from the raid, because they also shockwave and they silence. You just kill these down. Our raids spread out because he does a blast towards one little group, like a frontal cone type of thing. If you're in that area, you will get a stacking dot, so you want to spread out so you don't get too many stacks at a time. Second phase has started. We start by stacking up in the middle. This is for Valkyries. A Valkyrie is going to come, pick up 3 people, and it tries to take them to the nearest route off the edge. You must kill them. You can stun them, you can slow them with moves such as Mage's Slow, Frost Trap, Chains of Ice, Crippling Poison. If someone was to be taken off the edge and the Valkyrie did not die, they would fall to their death and unable to be rezzed. Also throughout this phase there is something called Defile. It's going to target a random person, and below them is going to be a big black pool, as you can see here. The goal is to run north or south right before Defile goes out, so this way you get your Defile dropped outside the middle. Because the Defile is dropped in the middle, it creates a little bit of a pain. Throughout the first and second phases, there's something called Infest. Infest is a stacking dot that goes on everyone, and does not go off them until they are healed above 90%. Disc Priest Power Ward Shield is very helpful here, as it can spam Power Ward Shield on everyone to keep them above 90% health, and Infest doesn't do any damage to them. This phase is just pretty much a repeating activity. Alright, we just hit the second transition phase. We just run to the closest edge. If you're standing in the middle, you're going to get hit really hard. If you notice, there's spears coming towards the group. These must be killed during both transitions. If they reach a member and hit them, they will knock anyone in the area off the map, which is pretty much a wipe. We use Hero on this transition because an additional Raging Spirit spawns, and if these aren't killed, it just leads to problems in the next phase. Running in, you must be careful of spheres. Alright, during this phase there's still Defile, but there's no Valkyries or Infest. We finish off the Raging Spirit before we attack Lich King. Throughout this phase, Lich King is going to do something just like this, called Vile Spirits. A whole bunch of spirits are created in the air. They need to be AoE down by the range. They're going to begin to come down and chase people. If one is chasing you, you need to run away from it. The reason is you do not want to get blown up by more than one at a time because they do an AoE explosion when they reach their target. Throughout this phase, Lich King does something called Harvest Soul. It does a lot of damage to one person. If they're healed through it, they are ported into Frostmourne, and they are faced with an encounter. There's a friendly and one enemy in there. DPS need to kill the enemy while interrupting his cast. If you don't interrupt it, you're going to have to cleanse the friendly. If you do not cleanse, you will probably fail your group. Healers, however, just need to heal the boss, or the friendly. Get him to full health. The more health he has, the more damage he does, and he will kill the enemy. If he gets a dot on him, you need to cleanse that right away, because that is the biggest source of his damage in this phase, or in that area. When Defile's coming out, we like to say spread out. This way Defile just doesn't hit too many people at once, and you can get out of it without it growing too big. This part of the fight rinses and repeats until 10%. Alright, at 10% you might think you wiped, but you did not. Do not release, stay here. There's going to be a minute of roleplay and then it ends. Lich King will AoE resurrect everyone in your raid. And you just burn them down for the last 10% right here. And that's the fight. Good luck.